I'm continuing the on the DLC campaign of Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4, and I will be doing a full-out playthrough of Marvel Spider-Man DLC on the remastered edition on the PlayStation 5, which is where I'm currently playing this game on. Now, as you can see, I am doing the Heist DLC episode on this on the City That Never Sleeps storyline, which is a technically a sub continuation of the main story for the game for Marvel Spider-Man PlayStation 4. I will be doing a full out costume showcase in every DLC, just to show you how they coincide and how they interact with the environment that the story setting takes place, and how they look and feel throughout this playthrough. And I'm also going to be changing up the suits that I play in after each major story mission has been completed. So far, I've completed the main game and ended on this suit in particular, and then I moved on. In the beginning of this DLC, I used this suit, and then I moved on to this suit. So after the next major story mission in this game, I'm going to be transferring over to the bombastic Bagman suit, and after the main story mission after that is the Future Foundation, then upgraded suit, and stealth suit, an amazing suit, an record rider suit, and an armored advanced suit in the final DLC. So now let's go over to here and collect all the stolen art paintings before heading out. See, my opinion in single player games, I like to explore everything that there is to do in the game, rather than completing the main mission first, just to enrich my experience and play gameplay throughout the entire game, especially with Spider-Man, because there's so much to do with Spider-Man, and very unique little interactions with him and the city and the people that live in the city. And I'm also going to go over my thoughts on how the game functions and plays, and overall experience on both versions. So starting with the PS4 version, which is what started all the Gamerverse, the Marvel Gamerverse, if you want to call it, which is basically its own separate universe from the cinematic universe, where like the games have their own special story focus. I think the Gamerverse really took off. This has always been Marvel story games, like Open Alliance too, which I really, in my opinion, I think that's what launched the Marvel Gamerverse, the MCU. But I think what really put it on the map and what really set it apart and what really made it take off was the game I'm playing right here, and that is Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4. For those of you who don't know what the official title is called, it's called Marvel Spider-Man, but it's also known as Spider-Man PS4 or Marvel Spider-Man PS4. But the official name is Marvel Spider-Man. And the remastered edition for the PS5 is also called Spider-Man PS5 or Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, or just Marvel Spider-Man PS5, but it's actually called Spider-Man Remastered, Marvel Spider-Man Remastered. And my thoughts on this, per se, is that this is a really well done game. This game in particular, in my opinion, really set the tone and set the barrier for what the MCU can deliver. Mind you, this came out before Marvel's Avengers came out, and I think it was due to this specific game entirely that they started development on Marvel's Avengers, because of how well Marvel's Spider-Man did. And this also garnered its own little mini spin-off game with Miles Morales, which I will get into later when I start playing that game. But overall, I think this is a really well done take on the Marvel's red and blue resident superhero, the web slinger, the wall crawler, web sling, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He has many nicknames. He's known as the Fantastic Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man, web crawler, wall crawler, web slinger, webhead, Spidey, and of course Spider-Man. And he's had many iterations as with his costumes, and I will be going into in-depth history lesson on the PS5 version because it's better looking in my opinion and it's better detailed. Not to say that this game isn't detailed enough. I mean, just look at this place. I mean, look at it. It's like NYC in miniature. Like, I can't tell you how many times countless times I just booted this game up, swung through the city mindlessly, just looking at every bit and piece, every detail, going where I actually am allowed to go within the game without having to be swung back forcefully by Peter himself. But for the most part, even though it takes place technically it takes place in Manhattan, and not in the other boroughs, like this right here, I think is the Bronx over here on this end, and we never get to see Queens, which is all the way over here. And I think this is a small little take. So we're in Manhattan. This is the island of Manhattan. This is the entire island of Manhattan, and we can't go anywhere. We can't even go to his home city of Astoria, Queens. But that's a topic for another day. Overall, I think this game really shines with how well they've done the characters of Spider-Man and Spider-Man's alter ego, or if you want to go it this way, of Peter Parker and his alter ego of Spider-Man, where Yuri Lowenthal really does an amazing job of basically not only playing Peter Parker to a T, or a more adult-oriented Peter Parker, but he does a really amazing job at how he makes Spider-Man sound versus how he makes Peter Parker sound, and they almost feel like two different people at some points in the game, but you know they're one and the same. Where Peter Parker goes, there's Spider-Man, and where Spider-Man goes, Peter Parker certainly follows because they're the same guy. However, the way Spider-Man really interacts with this city is another shining point, and I feel how well this game is done, which I feel it did actually warrant its own sequel, as well as how well they've done their side characters, or the supporting cast character, the main support cast characters of the game. So here we are. We're gonna go over every single character in the game for this we'll stream / video whenever it gets posted, and talk about how well they tied in the game and how well every character that's been introduced in this game. And let's get into it. So of course we're gonna start off from the bottom and we're gonna work our way up. And there is Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat. I do like Felicia Hardy and how they did her in this game, where she doesn't have the, long flowing hair that most iterations of her character has been depicted as, like this sexy bombshell, where she has this revealing outfit and very, very, very overly feminine, as in her original depictions and her later on depictions. I like this more, how can you say, more bodysuit oriented she is, where she doesn't reveal as much. She's still sexy, don't get me wrong, but she plays more into her character, and the mask actually looks like a mini visor, and she's basically a different person. I do like how she's tied into the story when both her and Mary Jane are in the same light. I have seen some storylines where Spider-Man has been dealing with both Felicia and Mary Jane, and some of them didn't go too well. Some of them were written a little bit too tasteless, and then this one is perfect because Mary Jane is his current girlfriend, who was originally his ex at the start of the game, and now his current girlfriend, soon to be fiance, if they even go in that direction in the second game, if there is going to be a second game. But yeah, I like how she's done. I like her. I like how she gets her own little DLC, which is what we're doing right now. Uh, the heist, Black Cat returns to New York City, and yeah. So the next character we're gonna go look into is Taskmaster. Now, for those of you Marvel Avengers fans, we all know that this man is like everywhere in the game. And he's in the beginning of that bridge mission. He's a clone mission. He's literally sprinkled everywhere in Marvel's Avengers, and you just can't get rid of him. Like every mission entails the Taskmaster. Um, but Taskmaster was done perfect in my opinion. He has incredible mnemonic talents. He's able to mimic moves and powers of most enemies, and he's seemingly very well funded. Keep in mind that the bios that each character has in this game is from Peter's point of view. So the ones with age unknown, he doesn't really know what old they are. But if you go into their actual like character bios, you can tell there's information on how old Felicia and the former Shield agent Taskmaster is. But according to Spider-Man, this is what he depicts these characters as when he interacts with them. So the next one is, of course, one of the more infamous and more famous Spider-Man villains, and that is, of course, Dr. Octopus or Otto Octavius, depending on, or Doc Ock, depending on what you want to call him. He's had multiple iterations, he has multiple designs, but this one sticks out to me as more realistic, in my opinion. This is what this is what happens. This game in itself is the result of what happens when you take Spider-Man, a fictional character, and make it way more realistic without making it too over the top. His powers in this game are way more streamlined.
I think one of Hardy's old stashes is around here.
His powers are more streamlined and way more realistic to fit in with the overall story that Insomniac is trying to tell with Spider-Man. It's not really comic oriented, where he has a lot more ridiculous powers and more feet versus his video game counterpart. But in this setting, he's way more realistic, way more centered as hero.
Hardy must have stashed something here. Hey, Detective. Got another painting for you to pick up.
Thanks, Spider-Man. I'll send someone out ASAP.
I'm curious, did Hardy have any family?
Yeah, a daughter, Felicia.
You don't say.
I know what you're thinking. She might be the new cat. But I ran a search on her. Comes up clean.
She just hasn't been caught yet. The police got her suit and equipment last time, but they just missed her.
I don't know, it doesn't track. When I interrogated Hardy, it sounded like he really loved his kid. Didn't want her mixed up in his work.
Oh, really? Good to know. I'll keep an eye out for more stolen paintings. Sounds like Daddy didn't want daughter following in his paw prints.
Also, let's take with my admiration. I should have titled this stream, my feelings and my thoughts on Spider-Man, because that's essentially what this stream is basically boiling down to. And let's go in with the thoughts of every suit. I do like how they untied several movie iterations costumes from the movies that he's been a part in over the years. The live action ones, not the animated ones, because there is an animated one from a movie, and I'm gonna go through all of the movie suits and go through my exact opinion on them, and starting with the Stark suit. Now, when I first seen this in Spider-Man: Homecoming, I didn't know how to feel about it initially, but it's grown on me since they presented him more and more with this exact suit. This is also the same exact suit that appears in Spider-Man: Far From Home, um, but it gets totaled actually, and he forgets his original suit, and then, but later on, spoilers. Basically, Happy from Iron Man decides to help out Peter, and he helps him design a brand new suit later on in the movie. But this is the Far From Home. This is the Homecoming version. I mean, you could technically use both when you're doing the Tom Holland MCU suits. When you, actually, well, the MCU suits. If you're using the MCU suits, there's 5 of them, I think. Uh, so this is the first one, and I really like it. It's basically if you took classic Spidey and modernized them, and you can see like his um. Let's go into a closer look. Oh, let's go into photo mode. Um, as you can see here, you, you can see that he has wrist guards instead of for his web where his web shooters are, and they boil all the way down to his wrists and his fists. You can see like the black patterning on his suit, on his shoes, the overall stitching patterning on his suit, the smaller spider logo that looks more robotic on the front, and a more larger but much more rigid and more like mechanical looking spider on the back with the webbing patterning on the back end of it, the waistband, and not on the front. As you can see, he has gadgets on both sides of his waist. So I do like this iteration of Spider-Man. It brings a more classic approach with a modern twist for the younger fans who haven't been properly introduced to Spider-Man yet, who haven't grown up with the original or classic Spider-Man. Uh, so yeah, this is a really good job on Marvel Studios' take part with that suit. The next suit, before I head back upstairs, is the homemade suit. Now this suit in the movie was was designed by Peter himself after he got into an altercation with Iron Man, and he felt like he was a failure. And this is when Tony Stark decided, the veteran hero, decided to teach his pupil a lesson. That lesson is the hero doesn't make the suit doesn't make the hero. The hero makes the suit. At this point, this is a teenage Peter, right? So this Peter thinks that it's the suit that makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, right? And that without the suit, he's nothing. Without the suit, he couldn't beat Vulture. No, Vulture. Yeah, it was Vulture. It was Vulture. He couldn't beat the Vulture. Uh, in that movie, and that without his suit, that he's basically nothing. He's not Spider-Man. He's just a kid with powers. And Tony decided to teach him a lesson like, hey, bro, you're not. The suit doesn't make. This doesn't define you. You are you, regardless if you wear this suit or not. So, and the last adventure to show Tony that he, in fact, was a hero, he make this made this up without the tech that was provided to him and the overall abundant assistance that came with the Stark's tech suit, which is what you've seen earlier, uh, and defeated Vulture and is the main villain of the movie by himself through sheer determination and grit. And I like how they restored it to its fullest with the like regular shoes, the overall long socks, the sweatpants, the sweater, and the ski mask with black goggles. It's really nice and it's really tied together. The next suit from the MCU, of course, is the Iron Spider suit. And of course, this is another Tony Stark inspired suit, as you can clearly tell due to the glowing lenses. These lenses actually do react. If I were to go to selfie mode and go to emote, they react. So this is angry, this is squint, this is default, this is surprised. It doesn't look surprised to me. Shifty, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's that. And this does look like armor. You can tell it's armor compared to the other Iron Spider suit, which is in the game. I will be going over iterations that share the same name of the same suit, but it's basically Spider-Man's own take on the armor itself, whereas the other suit, which we will get into later, uh, is completely Iron Man based. All right, so what that suit is of course the Iron Spider suit, which is right here. As you can see here, this screams Iron Man. Like if you didn't know this was Spider-Man, right, and you just looked at his hands and feet, which has also repulsors on the bottom of that, and that little arc reactor in the middle of his chest, you would think this is another armor for Iron Man, right? Because of like the red and gold, the blue, and the overall reactive armor that's associated with this suit. But this is Spider-Man when he got the original Iron Spider suit from Tony, and it greatly assisted him. I mean, yeah, this Jarvis is in there because it's Stark Tech, you know, but other than that, uh, it's Spider-Man at his finest, but with assistance from Tony Stark, just like a certain Iron Spider suit, which is right here. The next suit in the MCU the MCU, not the other movies, is the stealth suit. And I really wish, like in the movies, they gave him his shield logo, like right there. Looks like they could have been a shield logo right there, but this looks very military grade-esque. This also has reactive lenses. If you don't believe me, let's go into selfie mode. I told you, reactive lenses. And yeah, I kind of like it. Just rounding it real quick. And the final suit before I go for the MCU review is the upgraded suit. This is the current iteration of Spider-Man in the MCU. This is his current default outfit. After the events from Far From Home, the Battle of Mysterio, he acquires this brand new suit, which is, I think, an invert of Miles' suit. Low key, it's like the red and black versus the black and red. I mean, if we could like have these two characters side by side, I would show you. But this is Spider-Man's game. This is Peter Parker's game, not Miles' game. So we'll go over the suits in that game as well. But yeah, thank you for watching. This has been your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and I'll see you next time. See you.